Derivatives trading involves substantial risk of loss and is not suitable for all investors. Past performance is not necessarily indicative of future results.
So stressful when the world's on fire. Good God. I can't look at this, guys. Like, my strategy is you buy it and you hope that you got a good spot. Yeah, but we all think you're crazy. You don't fight this. No way. The markets are freaking out and you don't think that anything is wrong? Come back tomorrow and I'll lose it all. Should be fun.
Good morning, everybody. Well, today's Wednesday, right? I'm losing track of the days now. But I'm already looking here, coming in and going like, it's going to be another one of them, huh? Really quick here, let's like clear things out. Need to do something about that. The open is like, stays there. Hate that. That right? It is a little frustrating that the treasuries have been so tight as of late, because it really seems like that the longer term trade that I've kind of been watching in the treasuries and been talking about is starting to gain some traction in the market. But the treasuries are still quite dead. Or very quiet. I don't know why I'm choking on my own spit right now, but whatever. All right. So let's come in and look at a few things here. Oh, that's not it. What's the There it is. Okay, so here's the treasuries. Well, we're down a little bit from yesterday after having a pretty good move up on Monday. You can see here though, like, look at the spread. Like, just the whole way. Talk about a trend. The play is totally flattener right now. Why are you only trading in the pre-market? It's not the pre-market for me, buddy. It might be if you're only doing stocks, but our market has already opened. S&P 500, well, they pulled out a decent win yesterday. There was a big narrative shift yesterday. So I don't know if they're actually going to pull it out here today and move higher to the higher end of this range and maybe like start a new trend or something. There's a good chance that we might get hammered here and that they're going to sell the open and yada yada. In fact, I bet you all of the technical traders are going to be baiting this. But there was a narrative shift yesterday. All of a sudden people were saying, oh, AI doesn't destroy all of these software as a service company. In fact, AI is just like a front end on top of those. And the AI just uses those existing players. So we may yet be seeing a shift in the software. We'll see. Oil still elevated because they're talking about if there's going to be a war with Iran. But it's just been sitting in this range since all week. Gold and silver. I don't know. It's not terrible, but I don't know if I can really say that we got a trend going over there yet. Looks a lot better in silver, that's for sure. At least today in silver, again, it's good. So silver continues to outperform. Copper. Okay, now that copper, you getting more clear something happening. So maybe I always look at copper as an indication of global growth, particularly growth in China. Maybe things are doing a little bit better over there, right? The Japanese yen continues to fall. So remember that, like, what was it yesterday? Yesterday, the Japanese president concerned about more rate hikes, and this is just turning into a full-on pro-growth. Who cares about inflation? And yeah, pretty big move down here. And the Bitcoin Man, oh man, yesterday Bitcoin was looking pretty dire. Okay, well, they came back from that, but just only from that. So still a little bit. Yeah. So that's where we're at. Let's wait until AI codes binary. I really don't think that will ever work. So, like, I think that the whole thing is that it's based on tokens, right? It's based on tokens, and there's even some interesting differences when you train an LLM on one, like, English versus something else. And I forget what language it was, but like they did this study and there was another language that was actually more dense and better for AI. When you go to machine code or binary, right, then you start to get, you know, it's a different land with tokens. And I actually don't think, I guess I don't really know for sure. I would need to go and find an expert on the, the transformers or whatever we call them. But I don't know if binary would work. And especially when I think about like how do they have these LLMs doing thinking, like doing logic, right? Well, the way that the thinking models work is they just do text prediction on thinking. Like, so the models are kind of like copying people online thinking, I guess you could say. It's really weird because some of them, when they really juice these up with the training that they do, the reinforcement learning that they do on them to solve problems, like the AIs will like seemingly develop a personality. So like they'll tell the LLM to go out and do some work browsing a certain topic or something, and like the AI will take a break and look at Shiba Inu pictures and stuff. Right? Isn't that wild? So yeah, I really think that there are some fundamental limitations to a large language model. And there are certain things that you're not going to do with the large language model directly. Instead, you're going to use the large language model as an interface on top of that thing. And that is the case for a lot of business to business software as a service type companies. So guys like Salesforce, for instance. Like, I really don't think Salesforce is going away. That is a system that you're not just going to duplicate. Like, you could go and, you know, tell your LLM to make a service like Salesforce. But I don't think people realize how much work it goes into a platform like that, particularly a platform that's like enterprise grade, and knowing what the client wants better than the client, all of those sorts of things. But those services aren't going to go away. The LLM is just going to use those services. And the LLM is going to help people build those services, but it's going to be Salesforce, not everybody else, right? Like, I don't think it actually gets rid of the moat. So, and analysts are starting to agree with me on that one. That was the big narrative shift that I saw yesterday. The SaaS stocks were up, not a ton. It doesn't come anywhere close to fixing all of the damage, but like that's where we're at. So yeah, and there was, I do remember a couple of weeks ago, they were starting to talk about like, oh well, Claude is going to replace the compiler. No, that was like a misinterpretation of what they were saying. Anyways, let's just come over here and take a quick peek, make sure that there's not some news going on that I'm missing. Well, there was the State of the Union talk, but I'm not getting very good information on that yet. I did hear that he was calling for another like 401k style account, which I was kind of like, what? Like it sounded like, you should be able to invest $1,000 and it will be matched every year. And I was kind of like you can invest $7,000 in your 401k and your company matches it. So what? Why is that so great? But maybe I'll get some more details on that later. We've gone for more than 3 years. About what? No? I mean, it is interesting that it's been 3 years of people saying every day, "Oh, software engineering is going to go away and never going to." I don't think so. I think it's changing software engineering. I think it's making software engineering easier in many instances. But it's also kind of like, if you're like brand new, man, I think you have a really rough time. Like, how do you gain the experience? Right? For the people that already have the experience and know what the LLM needs to do, then it's great. It's great. Makes a lot of things at my job easier, but it doesn't replace my job. Most people are simply not cut out for investing. I think that's true. I'm gonna think about that for a second. Maybe I'll pontificate in a little bit, but my oatmeal was too hot, so I didn't eat it before we started the stream. So let's eat that and think about this for a little while. So I just want to note we are seeing a little bit of a rise in cumulative delta, mostly to wash out the decline in cumulative delta that we saw before the open. But we're only up like 2 ticks, so I don't know if it's even worth mentioning, but I thought it would. Reddit is so hilarious and exacerbating sometimes. From r/all the questions, how would you feel about Mom Dami and AOC becoming president and vice president of the United States of America? So, something interesting going on in politics right now over the past month is that basically all of the front-running presidential candidates on the left are like self-immolating right now. So AOC kind of had a significant foreign policy thing. So if you see a senator doing stuff with foreign policy, like going to another country and having a talk with other policy leaders and things like that, that's a dead giveaway that they're trying to become president, okay? Because the biggest struggle that senators and representatives have is the foreign policy thing, which is really like the biggest part of being president, okay? If Donald Trump did not have the foreign policy thing going for him, I don't know if he would have made it to his second term, or, you know, his of course he's unpopular in many respects, but I think that he would be so unpopular they'd take him out if he didn't have the foreign policy going for him, right? At least right now, because I think a lot of people are upset about the economy. But I digress. AOC, she did this thing and she asked some questions and said some things that did not sound like she knew what she was doing. And then she had to cry about it on a TikTok. Anyways, I really think that hurts her presidential ambitions. I really, really do. Okay. Mom Dami, I don't know if Mom Dami is running for president, but the whole first month of his term has been a complete disaster. There are services in New York that are falling apart. There's been scandals. Everybody in his cabinet are like so extreme, and their comments are coming out and making his look really bad. Like, there's some real question as to like, I just base, if the first month is any indication, that he's not going to stay in office for very long. Okay. And then you've got Gavin Newsom, the clear front runner. And he kind of had this gaffe where he came up and he said, talking to a black audience, oh, I'm not very smart, just like you guys. Like, I didn't get a very high SAT score and all of these sorts of things. And just the way that he said it was really, really bad. He's been coming out and talking about it like, oh, this is just fake news sort of a thing, right? Which shows that it is being damaging. And the problem with him is that, like, that works for Donald Trump's audience, but it's not going to work for the left audience. So I really think that Newsom may have just destroyed his chances at being president. Like, he probably still has a chance of becoming the Democrat nominee, but I'm going to be pretty hard to win with that gaffe. Of course, you never know what happens, right? Never know what happens, because the Republican challenger, J.D. Vance, might do something really stupid tomorrow, right? So you never know for sure. But it's just like all the Democrats are just not looking very good right now. It's really kind of strange to watch, because you got to realize that the Democrats have not had like a new leader of sorts in, I would maybe even say like 20 years. Like the last time that the Democrat Party had somebody that was like, you know, one of their big leaders on the left, and then they ran, well, I guess Hillary. There was Hillary, right? And then there was Barack Obama, who kind of came out of nowhere and was leading the party from the front, right? And then before that, it was it James Dean, or what was his name? I want to say it was Dean, not James, but not the actor, but he was the guy that did the shout. He had this this rally, and he was like, yeah! And then that was like the end of him. Right? So like the Democrat Party needs new blood to lead it, and then you're looking at what the new blood is doing, and it's not going very well for them. I honestly think, though, that the issue is, like, the Democrat Party holds itself up as the one that, like, knows what's going on. They're serious, and they're serious about policy, and we're going to go and look at the studies and do the things that the science says that we should do. And then they support stuff like democratic socialism, right? Like, it's just, it's a joke, right? That really all that is virtue signaling, because they want socialism, but they don't really understand the policy or do all the work anymore. And so the people that are rising to the top in the Democrat Party are not the serious people. And then the Republican Party, they don't really care about that stuff at all anymore. So it's the same issue. We're not getting very good leaders right now. You know what Newsom's helping doing without anyone knowing or caring? Remember those LA fires we said would make the land owned by California while it's in the process? Fines are yum. Well, there's like a whole court case over it, right? I don't know a whole lot about what's going on with that. But you're right. It was something that when it happened, people said would happen. And now you're seeing it. Curious. You know what? So going back to, like, it seems like we're having issues with a lot of, with quality of leadership in the United States, quality of policy leadership in the United States at all levels. Going back to the science thing, I think that a lot of people on the left view science as like a podium. It's like, I'm justified in saying what I'm saying because the science backs me, and that gives me the right to shout down at everybody that disagrees with what I say the science is. That's the way that the left looks at and views science and research. But the reality is that science is a shovel, and that to really take advantage of this science, I mean, you know, there's all that science you learned in school. That's great stuff, right? But those are things that are already known, that are already incorporated into society. How do you take society to the next level, right? You've got to take that shovel and start digging, because you're getting into increasingly more complex things, stuff that's harder to understand, right? You really have to know your stuff. Economists, these guys that are like researchers, economists don't know it all, but I find that economists are very, very good at understanding what the current situation is. Like what are all of the stats and all of those sorts of things, and what do those stats actually mean, right? They're very good at that. And why is that? Because they're constantly reading studies every day. So they know that, oh, well, you don't want to look at this indication, you want to look at this indication because here's the issues with it. And, you know, here's this study, but there was problems with it and people argued about it. And then here are like all of the other studies related to it. And your average person can't do that, right? They're only finding the one study that seems to support their current case, right? And so you get in these people that are up there claiming that they're backed by the science when they really haven't actually done the work. They really don't know enough about the science to really be saying the things that they're saying. And when you really dig into it, you find that the thing that the science supports the most is the idea that financial markets are a necessary component of a prosperous system. And that socialism doesn't work because it destroys the market, and that destroys the data that you need to even make good decisions. Is really the crux of it. So that's the issue. If Democrats were to go back to abandon these democratic socialists, abandon the whole socialism thing entirely, and just focused on, here are these complex systems, let's model them out, see if we can copy some of the things that we see in our current society that we don't like, and then model changing those things to see if they improve it, and then base our policy off of that, and you had like real science, I think we would make much better decisions. But it's never going to happen. It's never going to happen. The best that we can do is we can have people that do that modeling. We need more money to do it because, you know, we would like to do larger, more complex models, and that really requires a lot of work, right? And then they can give policymakers good information. And we just hope that we have people that are, you know, have the best foundation to be able to take the good advice, you know. Until then, I don't really have high hopes for many significant things changing, right? Like, you come in and they're going to change a law or implement a thing. Both sides have their idea of, like, this is the thing that needs to change. Like, the rights, I think the thing that's like, if you really get down to the heart of it, this is the one thing that we should change in the system that would fix the system. It's term limits. That's the Republican argument, right? What's the Democrat argument on this? I'm not sure. I'm not sure if the Democrats are making an argument like that. I think that they have kind of fallen into the, like, we just liked the way that things were under Barack Obama. But I digress. But I don't think that term limits would fix anything. I actually think term limits would probably make things worse, because then you have the quality of your representatives is just not as good. Now you have people that are more naive, that haven't been through, you know, multiple political maneuvers and all of that sort of stuff, so they can't navigate the politics and they can't navigate the policy because they haven't been around it, and you just get a body that just becomes more vulnerable to lobbying, essentially. So I don't think that I mean, term limits would be good, but, like, they should be really long, you know? Like, maybe you can't be in the Senate for longer than 24 years or something like that. Right? Because some of these things where it's like they've been in, like, Joe Biden was in Congress for way too long. Oh, yeah. Another one that bothers me is, like, you're in office and like, you're not even really running things anymore. You're a potato. Should do something about that. That would be something we could fix. Yeah. Yeah, you have to be able to make the right decision. And that's really hard to do in a complex system. Sometimes our base intuition just doesn't work. It's going to be really interesting, too, to see where it goes. Because with this tariff thing, the Supreme Court decision. So we were talking about this on Monday, right? So I don't think that the average person understands how many different avenues that the president has to impose tariffs. Right? So just as a review, the one that got struck down, the International Emergency Economic Powers Act of 1977. That was the one that was shut down. Okay. You have to declare an emergency and then you can enact tariffs. The Supreme Court saying this isn't an emergency. Well, okay. Then you have Section 232, which they already have some tariffs on, and maybe they could expand them. These are basically saying that we have to enact tariffs on this because of national security grounds. By the way, if you haven't read this, you'd have to go up in the history on Discord. But the New York Times had a story out basically about how both the Biden and Trump administrations, but particularly the Trump administrations, showed Silicon Valley, or let's not say Silicon Valley, but the chip makers, that China was very serious about taking over Taiwan and that we need to move chip capacity back to the United States. And these were all like individual elements that like had been reported, but this put it together into a stream that really showed the strategy and the tactics that they used to get it to happen behind it, to try and get it so that at least 40% of the advanced chip making capacity is in the United States instead of in Taiwan, because the intelligence that they had, and I think we saw one story that was that China will invade Taiwan by 2027. And I don't think that was like they just did an analysis of it and it shows that that's what their timeline is, but rather in 2021, they did that assessment and it was that China would invade by 2026. So they started moving the chip capacity. So that's pretty wild, right? And that's one of the places where Section 232 will become very, very relevant. Is you say, well, these chips are important to our military, so we have to protect make the chips that are coming from overseas cheaper, so that the industry here in the United States can compete. Because right now, we have the chip building in the United States, but when you buy it from the United States, it's more expensive, and they don't want it. They don't want to pay for that, right? Anyways. Section 122. So after the IEEPA got shot down, or his use of it, rather, he is now using Section 122 of the Trade Act of 1974, which allows the president to enact tariffs for a maximum of 150 days to address a balance of payments crisis. Now, this one is actually gets really, really interesting, because as soon as he did that, you had a lot of people coming out, and I'm telling you, man, it's like they put the message out there, and I don't know if in this case that it's so much like Democrat managed the message sort of a thing, but like that network still exists, and so one person says the thing and then like everybody else starts repeating it. So they're saying, well, like a balance of payments crisis, like with the way that we do our currencies today, it's not relevant under a Bretton Woods system. So they're saying this act is void, essentially now. But here's the thing. We moved to the Bretton Woods system in like 1972, 73. So Congress had written this law when it was already defunct. That's kind of curious. And they have an argument that a balance of payments crisis sort of a thing can mean more than just the very narrow definition that some people are placing it in. So I don't really know how this one will go in court, to be honest with you. There's some really good arguments on both sides. I think some just to let you know, because some people think, oh no, it's absolutely void, it will definitely get shot down. I don't know about that. But then here's the thing. The 150 days is going to be over well before they get shot down. So like if there's a court case on this one, it will be for refunds and not to like stop the current implementation of it. Okay. So then you get these other two, which is for unfair trade act practices and safeguards if it hurts a U.S. industry. Then there's also Reciprocal Trade Agreements Act Authority, but I don't know if that one really plays in here. I forget what that one is actually, but I remember that I didn't need to look into it too much. Okay, anyways, this one, 201, safeguards if it hurts a U.S. industry, is pretty absolute, but there's like limitations on these ones. Okay, so like if I recall correctly, the unfair trade practices one can only be in effect for a maximum of 4 years or something like that. So there's this issue. Donald Trump, I think, has actually made a lot of headway with his method of using tariffs and the United States' preeminent position in global trade to kind of bully other countries. Except for that, we would say bully like he's taking advantage of them. But really, I kind of feel like that he's just moving it into more of a fair setup. Because other countries have been taking advantage of our generosity to a large extent. Right? But the problem is, okay, this one gets shut down, then you go to this one, then this one expires, and you go to this one, then this one gets shut down, and then you go to this one, okay? And that whole process probably goes on through Trump's entire term. If we get a Democrat president, then all of this goes out the window, right? I think that the Democrat president would keep on the existing tariffs, but then when the courts shoot them down, they would just let them expire. And then it's back to the way that it was. Well, in the short term, it's still been an effective negotiating tactic, and even 4 years is enough for countries to want to negotiate. I think it would be better if the president had maybe a little bit more power so that he could use it as a stronger tool in negotiations. Because it does kind of look to me like the EU is kind of gonna like, we're not gonna really get the full deal that we need with the EU. But what's going to happen after that? You know what I mean? It's going to be weird. And then you would say, well, if we decide that maybe some tariffs are appropriate and we can have tariffs that are like enacted by the president and then are confirmed by Congress or something like that. But how are you going to do that? Because you can't pass anything through Congress. Maybe they're going to be able to pass the SAVE Act. Chip Roy said that they had 50 votes for the SAVE Act. It sounds like that they're really, really close, like it's down to the wire, but they may, in fact, actually pass the SAVE Act. Are they going to be able to pass anything else this term? I don't think that they will. You know, I think that the filibuster, in the greater scheme of things, it's a good thing that there's a high bar for things to pass. But as it stands, currently, it's like too high of a bar, you know? Like, we're not getting anything done, and we're falling behind big time. And there is historical precedence for this. Many countries where in order to move forward with anything, you needed a 60% majority. That is just not enough, right? Because here's the problem. Okay, with this system, you never do anything. But then, on the other hand, if it always required only a simple majority to pass anything in the Senate, then you're going to have all sorts of policies that would get shoved through. That would be terrible policies. And then the next Congress, when the other team has control of things, would spend all of their time undoing those things and replacing it. So then there'd be a lot of instability. Maybe it needs to be like, maybe you need to have a 54 vote majority. Like if you have 54 votes, then you can push anything through, and not 60. Or maybe even less than that. You know, like here's where like one vote would make a big difference as to what passes or doesn't, isn't it? It's kind of wild. But I guess what I'm saying is, I think the filibuster's days are numbered. It's become too big of an impediment to anything. It's been going on for too long. We're all afraid to get rid of it. If the Republicans get rid of it, then the Democrats will certainly take advantage of it next time that they're in power. Which kind of makes you wonder if maybe the Republicans should just scuttle it right now. Because if Democrats got a majority in the Senate, I think that they would scuttle it. Like it's going to happen. I'm more convinced than ever that it's going to happen. So we have some interesting times ahead of us politically in the next decade. All of that talking about how would you feel if Mamdani and AOC becoming president, vice president of the United States. Oh, okay. Oh man, the dangerous rise of men who won't date woke women. I'm sure that there will be perfectly reasonable commentary in that thread. Let's see if I can get some more info now on Oh, okay. Trump called for the creation of a government-backed 401k-like plan for U.S. workers who don't receive a retirement match from their employer. My administration will give these oft-forgotten American workers, great people that built our country, access to the same type of retirement plan offered to every federal worker. We will match your contribution with up to $1,000 each year. Bye, my boy. Danny. Needs to be more than 1,000. That's not enough. It's not nearly. That's not anywhere close to enough. You save $2,000 every year. You can't come anywhere close to retiring on it. But I guess it's a step in the right direction. That if your company does not have a 401k match, you're really screwed, so let's give those people a plan. I think that's a place that we could cover. That'd be good, yeah. Bar private equity from buying homes. Keep speech domestic. You just deployed your bot in demo after all these months? It's been a long time, hasn't it? Wait, on what asset? Because I thought it was cryptocurrency before, wasn't it? Sol. Okay. I wonder, man, about cryptocurrencies. We're at that point where it's like it's either gonna go to zero or now is the best time to buy, right? Like, and you might say, well, it's recovered every other time, yes, but I think that it's getting worse. The public interest is not there. But if anything, one of the great things about cryptocurrency is it does provide a good place for people like us to try and do more algorithmic trading. Be more competitive. Still can't manage to get clear scalps, but I managed an inventory strategy based on Avanel Stoikov model with volatility gating in my model's prediction. You're getting good there, man. That's the way. That's totally the. I mean, like I really think that most HFTs that they're doing something of that nature. Because the issue is that like what we do, which is kind of more of like a sniper type of strategy. I'm waiting for a specific situation and then I get in. Like there's so much randomness within that it's really, really hard to sort something out. The only reason why I think that it's practical for us is because when I do trade, I really, really have a strong edge. It's not like a 53% of the time sort of a thing. It's more of a like, we know what's going to happen, and there's, the probabilities here are I was misinformed or there was something else going on that I'm not aware of, right? But so there's still risks, but we still have like an extremely strong edge based on information. And that's the only reason why it's worth trying, right? Otherwise, it does kind of seem to me like for all the retail traders trying to do technical based strategies, I really think that trying to be a technical trader, like a discretionary technical trader, does not make much sense. Like if you're doing like, you're not going to find an edge that has more than like a 55% of the time sort of an edge. And you have to take a lot of trades to make money on something like that. And you probably need to have like discounted commissions and all that sort of stuff. But in cryptocurrencies, you have less of a problem there, and then maybe you can work it out, right? And then you can manage inventory, and you're able to catch that edge that way. Even with empirically proven stylized behaviors without filtering and stuff, you don't get a lot of it. It's like lots of little tiny things. Because I think they said that Renaissance technology only had like a 57% win rate. Although on that point, I still suspect that what Renaissance technology does is related to momentum more than people realize. Like, they started out just as like a we're gonna work something out, right? And for the first few years they didn't have anything, and then they had momentum. Other people were doing momentum. They started doing momentum, and then they developed from there. So you would think that the sort of edges that they're talking about are either refinements of momentum, things that like other people have figured out and we do know about now, like, you know, you need to factor in cross asset correlations and things like that, and you have to factor in your impact. And then once you're able to factor in your impact and how many other people out there are trading this particular signal, you might be able to predict how much an asset is going to move based off of that. And then you could sort out all of the different correlations to sort out all sorts of moves and which ones would be best for you to get in based on, you know, that asset and how much it would move and how much you can trade it, right? And then you're kind of getting into the area of order flow. So you're looking at all of the order flows, and you all of a sudden you kind of get this system that can predict the flows several steps ahead, right? That's the sort of thing that I think Renaissance technology is doing, which is basically, it is derived from momentum. Because what's happened with momentum is, like, so many people trade it that you start to be able to just front run the people that are getting in based on momentum, until it like doesn't work very well, and like the whole momentum industry crashes and a lot of funds go out of business, and then the cycle starts all over again. I'm still looking at this thread that was people on the left discussing an article titled "The Dangerous Rise of Men Who Won't Date Woke Women." Also, this is going to demo as perfect timing, as I was just let go and offered the salary for half a year. Oh, man. Dude, that sucks. You know what you should do is you should build your own trading platform. Be perfect. I tell you what, man, I feel now more than ever that everybody should put some degree of effort into developing something that can become its own business. You know what I mean? I don't think that thing should be trading, by the way, because I mean trading is a pretty iffy like basis for your living. If you already have money, then like it's great. But it's not a good wealth builder, right? But you still have really valuable skills that are valuable to people, especially doing futures. You understand futures like beyond index futures, by the way. You know, there are all sorts of people out there that have to hedge things and they need people to help them do that, and you can get paid for it. That, or building tools for retail traders. That's another part of it. I don't think that you want like your whole income to be based on retail trading, but like you can take a couple of things related to it, supplement, kind of like what I'm doing. Well, we trade, we do okay with the trading, and we have a YouTube channel, then we have a product, and it's kind of F right now, but is that something that could turn into a full-time business that could support me if it came down to it? Maybe potentially it could in the future. And I think everybody needs something like that. Everybody needs like 2 or 3 things like that, because I do think I think efficiencies from AI are coming. And I think that ultimately in the long run, it will result in more jobs for people. But in the short run, there's going to be a lot of disruption. There's going to be a lot of disruption. And the economy that results from that probably will be one where a larger percentage of people are running their own business. So start now. Start now. And if you guys program in Rust and you want to help me with my platform, we can totally do that. I wanted to leave, so they cut off the awkward discussion and are giving me more money. I'm happy. Also, bartend on weekends, so bartend on weekends, so it's going good. Yeah. I mean, you can find another job, right? That's the other thing, is don't start looking now, because in the current economy, it takes like 6 months to find a new job, depending on what you're doing. It is rough out there. Sent out more than 20 applications. Okay, so yesterday I was on LinkedIn. I'm on LinkedIn every day, basically. But I don't always look through the jobs, but I looked through the jobs just for fun. And there were so many jobs there that I had seen 3 months ago. There's one job that I know is not just up there because, they'll take their whatever, their unicorn candidate or whatever, and that's why it's no. Like, it's a serious posting and they need people, and the hiring manager is just filtering people wrong because they're not, like, they're still looking. And I know this because I like had an in there, like I had somebody that was working there, right? And then my application still didn't get through, even though I was more than qualified for it. Yeah, I think the problem was not with me with that one. But that was most of the jobs that were there. I didn't see ones that were like new that I hadn't recognized, that I was like, oh yeah, that would be good, interesting to go to. No, so it's still rough. And often things don't pick up until March, April. So. Okay, so I'm still stuck on this not marrying woke women thing. So the left-wingers are like, no, the title should be undesirable men restricted their already small dating pool even further. Where is this large contingent of liberal people that are getting married and having kids? I don't see them. Like, they'll get in relationships. They're not getting married. I mean, isn't the marriage rate among Democrats like just completely plummeting? I think so. There's like one thing one of the things that drives me nuts is that people are starting to use woke as a synonym for liberal or progressive. They're not the same thing. Okay. Woke is like we need to we white people need to be taken down a peg, and all of the opportunities should be given to less advantaged people. Right. There's a lot less people that truly believe in that than there are that vote Democrat, we'll say. Right. But I do kind of feel like that if a girl does think that, it is kind of a risk to you. Like think about it. You're marrying somebody that like the driving ideology in their mind is that white men like you need to be given less opportunity, need to be taken down a notch. You gotta, like, how can you have a partner that thinks that? I don't think that would make a very good partner for you. You know what I mean? So I think like a traditional Democrat, hey, you can still work it out. You can still work it out. But they seem to deny that it's even happening when it seems clear to me that it is happening, that they're not getting married. There's going to be a huge contingent of liberal women, millennials and Gen Z, that never get married. And it's not a big deal now, but I tell you what, man, when they're 70 years old, it's going to be a big deal. Got tickets to the Netherlands for the next months after this position. I will hold some 1 month, I think, for myself. Yeah. I tell you what, like that first month of my unemployment was like one of the most productive times of my life. And it really sucked when my wife had to start working and I had to watch the kids. Because especially that time period, I think was probably the most demanding ever. The kids were the most demanding ever. Azure is really chilled out. So yesterday, he still doesn't talk. I think he has the capability of learning to talk. I really think that he will learn someday. That we got him another appointment now that we've got all the medical and everything worked out for him to go to speech therapy. I think they're going to teach him to talk. And it's going to be interesting. So I don't know if geez. Even though he talks, I don't know if he'll be somebody that'll be able to support himself. But I digress. He's smart enough now to communicate and do things. And his younger brother, Ethan, the 3-year-old, is completely unhinged. Just he has learned. In the beginning, I felt like that he didn't react explosively enough. Like when he's wronged or when Asher does something that he doesn't like, it's got to be like, no, you can't let him do that. Don't let him do that. Don't push. And if he's gonna hurt you, like punch him or whatever, right? But he doesn't know how to regulate himself, right? So it goes way too far. So now it's like Every little thing is a complete meltdown. Oh my gosh. On Sunday at church, because Ethan didn't want to get dressed and come to church. And he was like, I want to go home. And when he wants something, you tell him no, you tell him whatever it is, he'll just keep repeating it 100 times. As though like you didn't hear it or didn't understand him, or if he says it enough times, he'll give in. Which we never do, so I don't know why he does that, but he just keeps saying it and saying it and saying it. Screaming that in church, and then you take him out into the foyer and everybody can still hear him. Oh, it's so bad, guys. It's so bad. Yesterday, they were playing, they've got these like magnetic blocks that you can use to build things like cars with them. And Ethan's playing with it, and his vehicle that he has constructed is not very strong, so it breaks. And then he blames Asher for it, even though Asher had nothing to do with it. And Asher, the older brother, completely calm, fixes it for him at the same time that the little brother is screaming and blaming him for it. So it's better. It's better because Asher is better. And Ethan is more capable, even though he's throwing temper tantrums all the time. Right. It's like he's having his terrible twos, except for that he's 3. So Ethan's probably ADHD. I'm convinced that mom must be ADHD to some extent. I don't know. They're worse than me. And all of the stepkids have it. So I think that means that mom has a little bit of it. So yeah, I wasn't able to take as much advantage of that 1 year as I would have liked, because I spent most of that time watching kids. Yeah, it sucks. But now I am starting to feel like things are normalizing a little bit. Being able to work from home on Tuesdays and Thursdays should really, really help. Help me get like my fitness where I want it to be, because right now I'm only like really able to work hard 1 day of the week, and that's not enough. And I got a video in the pipeline, and I really still want to work on my own trading platform. It's every day, man. Just today here, there was a thread where somebody was talking about like, well, I've tried backtesting all of this stuff, and my conclusion is that technical indicators don't work. Well, you're correct. But what do you have to do to get technical indicators to work? Because they don't exist for nothing. And we do know that there are some professionals that use them. Well, you have to manage a portfolio, a momentum portfolio. You have a whole universe of assets you're looking for a signal. And it's only across a wide universe of assets that you can actually get the statistical aberrations that you're looking for to work for you. Just like we were talking about here with Andre, that like it's not until you're managing an inventory and taking thousands of trades that some of the properties that you want to take advantage of as a high frequency trader can work out, right? So why don't retail traders know this or do this? Well, because retail traders are just using the tools that have been given to them. So the platforms that we have allow us to have a chart. They allow us to put indicators on a chart, and they allow us to run a backtest on that chart with indicators. If I want to, run a signal across the whole universe of assets, platform doesn't handle that. We need a platform that does. Well, there are kind of ways that you can do it with Python, but raw, right? We need something that handles backtesting a portfolio. We need something that handles machine learning natively. We need something that handles saving all of the data, including the order flow data. So that's why we need to make our own platform. Don't you think options have an effect? Oh, they absolutely do. They absolutely do. Unfortunately, like the data for options is really expensive for starters, or like options on futures is really expensive. And then it's also incredibly complicated, right? And in the end, that flow still comes into the end instrument. So for our purposes, when basically what we're doing is speculation, it's enough to watch the main instrument, as long as that instrument is a large enough portion of the primary market of that, right? That's why I kind of think that watching the order flow in ZN works really, really well. Watching the order flow in ES, well, if you insist on trading ES, I think you're better off with the order flow than not, but I really question how much of an edge it can actually give you over there. You know what I mean? So, yeah. And then, of course, you want to look at things like gamma, right? We don't put that in every day. Where is it? The gamma exposure. We're kind of in an interesting place. The S&P 500 might get squeezed higher here now that the gamma has come off. Okay. And then keep in mind that we are looking at like what the options are pricing for volatility to create these lines here. These targets that I have on my thumb. I think a platform needs more than Python and machine learning. Natively, it's hard to achieve if the platform will eat 20 to 30% of RAM. I am running directly from Git Bash without IDEs for performance. Well, so first of all, with Python, a lot of the modules that you're going to be using, they were written in C, so they are still fast. Memory is a thing. I haven't really heard a lot of discussion of people complaining about the memory usage of Python, but I suppose it could be an issue. But that's also why you'll be able to do it directly in Rust if you want to. Mm-hmm. I think some of the things, like I think you set it up so that you can use Python, right? But then, you know, like we have our own backtesting tools that are written in Rust, and you know, it's funny that you're running it through Git Bash. So something that I might try is create a Docker container. Oh, if I get the chance later, I'd like you to explain those texts you created on Jigsaw. Oh, well, it's really simple. I have an indicator that you can download from speculatorseth.com. That's part of that package called Daily Volatility Levels. And you put it on your chart. And what it does is it goes out there and it uses some free data about what the options, the at the money options are pricing for volatility. And then based on that, it creates these levels that are, you know, the expected ranges for the day of that asset. And then the indicator outputs it to a file, which you can then load data here in Jigsaw with. So basically what we're doing is, because the volatility level like 4.48 is like the volatility for a year. So then we times that by the square root of the number of trading days in a year to, you know, turn it into daily volatility. And then we say like, you know, that's the center is going to be this if the range is, if this is the 4.48, right? Then then this is going to be half that, and then there's this one is going to be the full that. So that way, if you have a day that is just goes sideways, you know, then the height of this is going to be 4.8. And if you get a day that just goes up, and height of this is going to be 4.8. And then if it goes beyond that, then that means that we're outperforming what the options were pricing. Do you have any idea how they are pricing these polymarket Bitcoin 1 hour candle up or down markets? Oh, you know, I don't know. One, I kind of almost have to wonder. Well, I don't know. That'd be one of those things that, like, it hasn't been around for very long, right? So I would kind of want to see, is that an idea that spreads? Like, do the market makers actually? Because I would kind of think that there'd be some real downsides to doing that as a market maker, you know? On the other hand, I've kind of been like about daily expiration options, and that's become a huge thing. It's become a huge thing, so. Polymarket tells if you're, well, yeah, it's event betting. It's really funny. A lot of people are talking like, you know, prop firms and event and sports betting have gotten really popular. Well, I don't know if they're as popular as it seems, and or as effective as they seem, as much as it is that they literally pay the influencers to talk about them. I've gotten stuff from Polymarket. I've gotten stuff from Kalshi. It wasn't really enough in my boathouse to really do much with it. There's a 250 milliseconds taker speed bump. Oh, really? Oh, jeez. That doesn't sound fair at all. That they can just pull their liquidity, and the orders are delayed 250 milliseconds. Ah, jeez. Well, whatever. It works for them. It works for them. Well, guys, I gotta get going now. Come tomorrow, we'll be able to stream for longer. Maybe we'll get into something. I don't know. Having that much time makes me think like, we should just work on the trading platform. But that's not very interesting to you guys. Plus I got some things I'll be able to do in the evening with that time. So. All right, guys. I will see you tomorrow. In the meantime, stay excellent.